We are live. Welcome to an episode of Shots from the Winchester podcast.
Yeah.
Filmed live right here in the Winchester. You can't do Shots from the Winchester podcast without doing a shot from the Winchester.
Let's do it.
Do your listeners know that it's actually Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.?
Around here, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's our fourth take.
What, gentlemen, what are we drinking? What are we drinking? As I look over my shoulder here.
How about that?
That's what, the skull? Is that what you were going to say?
I was.
Yeah.
Badass.
That's a good way to kick off the weekend.
The skull? The clear skull?
The Crystal Head Vodka.
Crystal
Which
Head
vodka?
Vodka. Let's
Okay.
see if we can get some sponsorship by that. Crystal Head Vodka. It's my favorite kind of vodka until somebody else pays us more to do an ad, and then I'll have a different kind of favorite vodka.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can get sponsored by Uber too.
So it's not water. I can,
Well played.
Cheers.
I can confirm.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
Here's to it.
Cheers.
All right.
Here's to
Thumbs
it.
up.
Tuesday morning at 7:30.
Yeah.
Now, again. That goes down really smooth. It's actually not terrible.
No,
Thank you,
it's good.
thank you, Crystal Head.
Isopropyl
Thank
Skull
you, Crystal
vodka.
Head, for
Crystal Skull vodka. It's like isopropyl alcohol.
Crystal
I
Head.
need to
That
put
is
some
not
on
a
my-
reflection of the quality of your tequila. It is a reflection of my lack of manliness for being able to put a shot down.
You're crying.
I am. I'm crying because it's
so
of the
good.
nostalgia. It reminds me of growing up and just like every morning my mom would be like, "Sweetie, pour me a shot of tequila, will you?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm in kindergarten.
Just put it in
Anyway.
the cereal. You know?
Just put it in the cereal."
Yeah.
Ma, meatloaf. What is she doing? All right. How did we get here? We're here to talk leadership. You guys are leadership experts.
So we hear.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Velocity Advisors, you guys are tackling some very tough leadership challenges these days. Here you go. Get the.
Velocity
Give-
Advisory Group.
This is not a shameless. This is an opportunity for you to shamelessly plug that. We're gonna.
You guys are cute, though. You do look like twins.
we
We're
do
lying.
like.
So
I
it's
know.
close.
Well,
It's like
somebody
a more
didn't get the
improved
memo
version.
about
Right.
what the uniform of the day
I
was.
know.
Mhm.
Tuesday red
Yeah.
shirt.
Would
day.
you come off the dock? What are you, dock hand? The plane. What's going on
So
here?
he's unusually tall. He's too tall for a tattoo. Yeah.
I bet you 90% of your listeners.
That would be 9 total people, by the
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know the
The three of us
Yeah.
listeners,
Yeah,
so we
they-
got it
yeah,
covered.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
you guys will listen to this episode, so
Yeah.
that we just need 6 more to recruit 6 more. Crystal Head Vodka. We make some listeners there. All right, what are we doing besides? Yeah, I literally normally this podcast normally the wheels come off after like 20 or 30 minutes, not 20 or 30 seconds. So
Oh, we'll take it down all kinds of
Well, it was all
rabbit
the takes that we took with the shots.
yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
Those will all be in the blooper reel. So let's talk leadership. I'll tell you, we here at Greencastle, we dip a toe into leadership inevitably because of what we help our clients do. But that is what you guys are doing as your bread and butter. Dave, you started the company 10 years ago,
Something
right?
like that.
About
13.
wow.
Baker's dozen.
13 years.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, post-COVID, what is the biggest challenge for leaders coming out of, or is it the same thing, just repackaged a different way?
No, I would say leaders today are struggling with retention. It's the landscape today. If they can do everything right, there's still a lot of headwinds that they're facing. Just retaining talent, advancing talent. So some of them are getting it right. A lot of them are getting it wrong. Pre-COVID, there wasn't as much churn. And that's kind of an industry agnostic thing, right, Joe? I mean, I'm seeing, regardless of what the industry is, for a long time, people would stay if it was reasonably good. And now people want to work from home. They want a lot more flexibility. They have higher demands. And the employers that are getting that and working with what the new landscape is are coming out ahead. So flexibility is more necessary today.
Is the Great Resignation a product of, if that's even a thing, and I'm curious of your guys' thoughts, but if that's a thing, is that a product of leadership challenges in, as you mentioned, retention and training? Or employee satisfaction?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand over no one intentionally left their job in 2020, right? I mean, everyone was scared. We're bunkered in eating, you like the military reference? Eating,
see what you did there.
Whatever, ramen noodles and just trying to get by. 2021 came out of hibernation a little bit, but I just don't think anyone had movement in the market. So I think some of it was that I think a lot of the boomers are deciding to retire, get out of the workplace. I think there are probably a lot of different factors of why it's there. But from a leadership standpoint, some leaders responded well and were in front of this issue or tackling it now. And others are acting surprised and shocked that all this weird stuff is going on around them and they feel victimized by it as opposed to working through it.
So what was COVID just a catalyst for what the workforce had been waiting for, which was an opportunity to hit the reset button on career satisfaction or find a work environment that's more engaging? Or
I think COVID pushed this flexibility that people wanted probably for a really long time. It forced it, and it showed the business community that you can be flexible, that you can give an alternative way of working.
Yeah.
A lot of organizations embrace that and kind of have moved forward and frankly, a lot of them are moving back to, in fairness, a lot of them are moving back into the office space. But I think it forced flexibility, and the employees that's like the new norm. I think that's the number one thing COVID forced. What do you think, Joe?
I think
all right, that's enough.
So,
Dave.
Fair enough. That's probably the right thing to do, man.
He's drinking
I agree.
a Truly.
By the right,
He's drinking a Truly. Fair
But you
enough.
guys drink the heavy stuff.
Sly Fox.
Sly Fox.
Thank
I'm
you.
Truly.
Yeah.
Just because you have two Trulies doesn't make it
I
tougher.
bet my alcohol percentage is equal to yours.
I don't know. about this.
5%. You don't even need to. You don't need to look.
There's a
You got your
possibility.
glasses on.
There's a possibility we could get like a White Claw sponsorship. So I'm not going to.
Just because it's grapefruit and
You-
mango
you
doesn't
are
make
switching
it any
from
less
White Claw to Truly,
alcohol.
or from Truly to White Claw.
both
Am
of
I?
yours
Oh,
equal
wow. Look at
about
the
a third
diversity
of
here
ours.
at the Winchester. It's incredible.
Yes. That's what you came in here for, is just to get
Free
bashed.
booze,
Yeah.
for sure.
Booze,
And bashed.
Well, that's
I
the
go
price.
everywhere, get
That's the
bashed.
tax you have to pay, is to get heckled
I'll take it.
for drinking Trulies.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I already handed my man card in a long time ago. I look at COVID as another layer of challenges for leadership, and I've always looked at leadership as we develop our culture, we onboard people. Like, those are the roots, right? Culture is the roots that are going to help us sustain those storms. And COVID did a couple things. One, it pushed people to remote, which is a whole new set of communication challenges, and either people leaned into that and were deliberate about, hey, we still can communicate virtually. Let's get together outside. Let's have discussions. Are we meeting regularly? Do we have KPIs, to key performance indicators to track all of that? If they didn't have that, now they're pivoting in multiple ways. Maybe there were discussions, soft discussions that are happening around the water cooler that weren't happening now. So now you tie in that complexity. Then you may have tied in the cultural. You get one side that's feels one way about COVID, another side feels the other way about COVID. That can add different layers on top of the generational differences between how boomers or millennials or Gen Z all feel about work.
Yeah.
And clearly the millennials and Gen Z feel different about work than Gen X and boomers may feel about work and responsibility. So now we've got a perfect storm of cultural challenges that are occurring, of communication styles that occur, of boomers, you worked someplace for 10, 15 years and you were loyal, that's what you did. Gen Z is like, whatever, I'll just move back in with my parents and I'm not happy here, so I'm going to, I don't really like what I'm doing, so I'm going to quit and I'll be okay. And that's mind-boggling to kind of Gen X and other cultures. So ultimately, as leaders, it's our responsibility to figure this out and figure out, how do we build a culture from the ground up? How do we spark fierce conversations and be direct? And most importantly, I'd say focus on the mission. So we hear so many different side discussions about whatever it is, but it's say, hey, our company mission is X. How do we hire for people who will support that mission, who think and operate the same way? I think at Greencastle, for example, hey, listen, we hire veterans. We have a certain mindset and approach. This is what we do. This is what we focus on. Everything else is secondary. And so I think it's added things for leaders to talk about. But my point is that if you've got a healthy culture, and you know what your vision is, then that makes it easier. If you don't, you're going to be exposed much faster.
You mentioned the difference between what the cultures or what the generations want. That the boomers wanted something different. I'm a Gen Xer, right? Yeah. Gen Zers,
Gen X baby.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And millennials, they want different things. I don't know. I've read some articles that are a little provocative, and I'll ask you guys that question. It's a kind of a provocative thing. Is that true that that Gen Zers and millennials, or Gen Zers now as at the incoming workforce, that they really want something different than the boomers wanted? And what I mean by that is the boomers wanted something. They wanted to feel purpose. They wanted to have a sense of being valued, and they didn't necessarily get that. That was go work in the factory and just be thankful to have a job. Now Gen Zers are being fed. I don't know if that's an accurate term. Like, oh no, you want to feel a connection to the ESG, to the purpose of the not just the mission, the for-profit mission, but that more existential mission. Is that true, or is it just that as humans we just want to feel connected to our work, whether it's the ESG or whether it's working in a mine, that we just really just want to feel connected to our work, or am I oversimplifying what's a more complicated topic?
Jonathan, here's what I believe.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's
Okay.
much better.
All right. So,
Sire, if you just call me Sire or Sultan, either one.
I like Sultan.
Yeah. So do I. I've been trying to get my kids, my colleagues, anybody to use it. I'm the first person to be like, I like
not
that.
calling you Sultan.
Yeah, I don't mind
I'll
that.
call you Sultan. So Sultan, the difference, like,
Yes.
you think about
And
connection.
cut the interview right here. We're going to end on a high note.
Are you going to leave the part in where we're picking on Joe?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
For sure.
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Sorry. So you were saying.
I don't even know what I was saying. So the connection.
Yeah, the word connection means something different.
It does mean something different. So for us, connection is probably what we're doing right now. We're together. We're in the same room together.
Yeah.
My kids, when they're communicating with each other, I have 2 Gen Zers, and I don't even know what my youngest is going to be called. They'll sit literally in the same room and text each other in the same room, and that's connection for them. So, it's very, very different, the way that you communicate, the connectivity, the frequency. Do you guys have kids that have Snapchat?
I do. My oldest does.
It's
mine are
mind-boggling
13,
to me.
11, and 9, and that's
They-
our first social media yet. So
Yeah,
I'm literally about to absorb everything you say.
They take a picture of themselves and they hit send, and they're making a funny face or a blank stare like a zombie, and that's really enriching to whoever just received that. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Could you see 2 boomers doing that? I mean, that makes no sense.
I asked my daughter, I go, what's going on here? Is this it? She goes, that's pretty much it. I go, so I don't really need to be on here. Do
and they
I?
don't
She goes,
even
"No,
use
not really."
words.
no.
Yeah.
They don't even use words. So
I've asked my daughter about the level of narcissism it must be. There must be to, and she's only 13. She's like, Dad, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, just to think that somebody else wants to see a picture
Your
of you,
face.
and we're
Does she
kind of
do the fish lips
this
thing?
literally. No, oh my God, I would
good.
just
You would allow that.
I would
Yeah.
take that phone.
Yeah.
But this is how. Remember I talked about the wheels coming off. This is literally how we start going down rabbit holes. I was like, there's a level of narcissism to believe that somebody is just sitting by their phone like, man, I wish I had a picture of John's daughter like doing some ridiculous face. Oh, there it is. Oh, I need another one an hour from now, because to Snapchat's credit, they've created these streaks, right? Which is you get points, or it's a status symbol.
it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's absolutely it's gamification, really.
Right?
For sure.
It's-
You get the
it's-
dopamine hit every time
They
you
get
receive
that,
something.
and you
for
are
sure.
feeding I have a 187-day streak that
Right.
I've
Right.
sent messages to this group. Kinda.
I look
How
at.
did we get here?
I look at when I've interacted, like I tug it like they're aliens or something. Gen Z,
Teenagers are.
and I got 2 of them. I look at it as like hitting a golf ball. You get the right structure, you get the right guidance, the right parenting environment, with all the knowledge in our world in our hand that happened before, right? Previously, it was at a university in a library, and a professor was going to tell you. Now you have the whole knowledge in your hand. You get the right guidance. I've met some young people who are extraordinary human beings, and They know how to lean in. They understand the soft skills, and they can knock it out of the park. But at the same time, if it's not given the right guidance, it's that golf ball is going to go way off into another cart until hopefully they come back. Now, I didn't have everything figured out. I have to remember sometimes with my teen daughters, I was a knucklehead when I was probably till maybe last year, maybe today.
Yeah.
It's possible, and to extend some grace there. And so that's where I think as leaders, providing patience, providing grace, continually repeating, like, here's our mission. Let's focus on our mission, bringing them back in. We may be, let's say you get somebody right out of college. We may be that first touch point, because I don't believe they're getting in college, to be honest with you, of soft skills to provide them. Here's what teamwork looks like. Here's when we work together, what that looks like. Let's go off-site. Let's do some interesting things together to combine their knowledge with wisdom. And it's going to take repeat leadership behaviors to change that a little bit.
So, Joe, I have a question for you. So your grandfather enlisted in 1938, right?
Yep.
And he was a major by when?
Retired. Well, he enlisted. He was a major by 1945. So extensive time in the Pacific, on Guadalcanal, New Georgia, Philippines.
So to put context to that for people who don't know, you came in as a, and I'm sure somebody's gonna be insulted, but you came in as the most basic entry level, like,
it is
line level employee. You came in working on the factory floor, and by the end, you were like a vice president of the company, to try and put it in context.
That's right.
People don't know the military structure.
We're consulting generals and
to come in as a private, and I'm trying to put it in context for people listening who might go, well, I don't get it. You came in as a mopping the floors, and within 7 years, and particularly in the military, which is a very patriarchal organization, you were consulting the CEO, which is like the
not
rapid
me, my
rise.
grandfather.
Your grandfather,
Go ahead.
So where I'm going with this is generationally. They call that the greatest generation, right?
Yeah, right.
So they're a lot of structure, they values, all those things mattered a lot. I mean, loyalty. That generation, they put their time in. They didn't bitch or complain about anything, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the boomers. So where I'm going with this is a pendulum swing. So the boomers, sex, drugs, rock and roll, freedom, they overcompensate a little bit, but they, a dog, picket fence, one kid, maybe two kids.
That's right.
Right.
But just to add to that, there is this concept that if you go to college, you get married, you get the picket fence, you get the house, you get 2.3 kids, that equals happiness.
Right.
Yeah,
that's being dispelled now.
Yeah. Well, let me keep going. So then they had us, right?
Yeah.
So Gen X.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome. We're badass. We're very autonomous generation, right? Because we were the latchkey kids.
Yeah, the latchkey kids,
Literally.
right? Yeah.
Right.
I
We
was.
Google it, kids.
Saturday morning, we sit there with our cereal and watch cartoons because.
And man, if you missed it, you had to wait till next Saturday. You did not miss. There was no Netflix,
Bugs
no
Bunny?
on demand.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
our generation became very autonomous, very structured, very disciplined, very hardworking. Probably, arguably, since the traditionalists, the hardest working generation. Then we start having millennials and Gen Zers, and because we were so structured and our parents were so loosey goosey with us, we helicopter manage them, and we're very structured. Everyone gets a participation trophy. We coddle our kids. Then you get technology coming in. So we have this back and forth of every generation, all in the workforce, that requires leadership to lead all these multi-generational realities. I would say I actually have huge admiration for the millennials, and millennials and Gen Z are very different. People peg them as, first of all, millennials aren't young anymore.
No, they're not, right?
Millennials are like 40 years old. I mean, we act like they're, they're old, right, Eric?
Are you a millennial?
Can see Erica.
You are a millennial. What year were you born?
90. You're an old fart.
Yeah.
Right?
I
And you're an old millennial, are you not?
People can't see Erica right now, but she has a walker and blue hair, and it's.
You are.
Put your dentures back in, Erica.
Actually, she was the one serving us the skull drink earlier.
Yeah.
But all these generations are in the workforce, and they're extremely resourceful. These newer generations, they do need a lot of attention and a lot of feedback. But from a leadership standpoint, I'm trying to tie this back.
I see what you did. You brought it full circle.
Do you like that?
I love it.
we have to
You should be
really,
the host for this place.
Well, here,
Yeah,
Can't do
literally
worse.
we really have to tailor and modify our leadership style. It's not about the leader anymore. It's about the people that they're leading and really customizing the leadership style, not just from a generational standpoint, but a behavioral standpoint. Maybe some people are more dominant or more people are analytical. You've got to modify and match what their needs are versus looking in the mirror and really leading from what you want. You have to lead from what the expectations and the needs are of the people that you're leading. Generations is one of those factors, but how they were raised, where they were raised, what values they have, their education level, were they military, were they not, all those different things are factors that these leaders are forced to consider. 20 years ago, everybody, you could carbon copy everybody, and leadership was arguably a little easier 20 years ago than it is today.
It's a fascinating point. If I can just bring up, Joe, what you talked about embedded in there, what you just mentioned in there, embedded in there was, you just used different words for it, but you talked about leading a diverse workforce.
Yeah.
And we so often categorize those according to the very easy demographics, the color of your skin, the gender, like
right.
just the race, ethnicity. But what you said is you talked about your background, your experiences, your socioeconomic status. Your I can be a white kid who grew up, a white male, heterosexual male who grew up in the hood, which might be different from a black female who grew up in an affluent family, and people would automatically go, oh, you check this box and you check this, when in fact what you're talking about is servant leadership truly taking into account that the diversity in experiences and the diversity in perspectives, which I'm glad to see that the DE&I world is moving away from just checking a box, going, I have so many Latinos on my force, or I have so many members of the LGBTQ on my workforce. No, I have this tremendous diversity of thought and tremendous diversity of experiences, and that is what and it's not just having them, but I think, in my opinion, you guys are certainly the experts in this, it's not just having them, but it's embracing what they bring to the culture, to your ability to innovate, to your ability to be creative, to your ability to solve problems for your clients. And that's whether you're McDonald's or you're IBM, solving problems and tapping into that diversity of experience and thought. I think that's where we're moving to a better place.
I think that, like, you touched upon it briefly, just to add to that, which is, one, recognizing that values are key. And so when I had my first business, we operated for 9 years. We didn't establish values. We didn't write down, here's our values. We were just operating as my first business, didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And then I learned, that's the first thing you need to do is establish what are our values, and then embody them and live them and talk about them and have them breathed, whatever that word may be, after a shot.
Have another truly.
Over time, to say, this is how we hire. Do we have people who are going to embody these values? Number one, can they execute, and do they understand and believe in the mission? Far more important. Now, to your point, which is, now how do we get diversity of thought? Theoretically, like, hey, listen, we're three white guys here. I'm going to understand that somebody who is a person of color or a woman is absolutely going to have a different experience, different approach that we want to incorporate, because they're going to have a different view that we want to include, as we have a very diversified world. And we are a global environment. So I had a business that operated out of Pakistan, with an office in Pakistan and Mexico. And the world is shrinking, so it's important to incorporate those worldviews and those different ideas and know that we're different.
I think I have a whole thing that you said that sparked a whole nother rabbit trail. But why does diversity matter for a leader? Yeah. Blind spots.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Yeah.
Let me pull on that thread a little bit.
Yeah. So if you're a leader and you've surrounded yourself with everyone that's just like you, thinks like you, they went to, they have the same degrees as you have, or
got a bunch of yes men.
Yeah.
Well,
boy, what a good place you're going to be in.
Or even maybe they're contrary. Maybe they do challenge you in different ways, but their experiences are very similar to yours. Your leadership team collectively is going to have major blind spots. And what embracing diversity has, and diversity in the broader sense, not just the obvious sense, it eliminates those blind spots. And leaders that are open to that and accepting of that, that's where they get the advantage. And
it only eliminates those blind spots if a leader is not just checking boxes. And I know that's a little bit of a provocative statement, but if you're not just checking boxes because society says that you should have a more diverse workforce, if it only improves your leadership if you truly embrace what that represents.
Humility.
Right? Is that right?
Humility,
right?
Yeah, and you talked about servant leadership earlier today. One of the things that we do is executive coaching, a little shameless plug.
Yeah.
But leaders have so many blind spots. The higher you are in the organization, the person that has the largest blind spot generally is the CEO.
Yeah. And why is that?
Well, they're further away from the front line. They're further away from the interaction with the client, unless they're not leading in a healthy way and they're doing more delivery or whatever than they are leading. But the further you are away from the action, you're not knowing the real truth of what's going on out there, right? Well, people are afraid oftentimes to tell the leadership, CEO, C-suite, VPs, all the different things that we've talked about. Mm-hmm. They're afraid to tell them the truth. There's risk associated with that. There could be retaliation. There could be denial. There could be all sorts of reactions from that leader. And because of that, it forces blind spots, right? So one of the things that we do oftentimes as executive coaches is serve in the form of thought partners or also truth tellers. Like one of the things I always ask the people that I'm working with is, do I have permission to shoot you straight? Because oftentimes a lot of leadership teams don't shoot the leader straight.
You ask the question?
Well, I do.
You just cut right into it.
Oh yeah,
I do. I ask the question because
is that why you have a high? Is that why?
That's
Dave
why he's
has a
better
higher
than
client
I am.
retention. Yeah, client retention
true.
rate than
well,
you.
they assigned him to me. Yeah, for sure. So I just assume that part's of the job, but it's smart to ask the question.
But I want to ask you,
get permission.
When you say, "Can I shoot it to you straight?" and they're like, "Yeah, sure. Tell me what I already know." When you tell them something that blows their mind, like what they're like, "Wait a minute, my workforce is afraid to come to me." And you're like, "Yeah, dude, they think you're a fucking asshole."
So we have a really
we can take it there on the podcast.
We're drinking here, brother. This is big boy rules.
It's not water, I can tell you.
And I only say you're a fucking asshole if that's what your clients are saying.
Right, that's true. That's a fair use of fucking
fair
asshole.
use of
right? All right, so here's the problem. Most leaders that aren't narcissists, we were talking about our friendly narcissists earlier today, we have a list of 10 things. Here's what you get when you work with us. So here's what you get if you hire an executive coach. All these benefits.
Yeah.
Number 4 on that list is we help you identify your blind spots.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm telling you, no exaggeration, 7 out of 10 people choose number 4. We say, which one matters the most to you?
Yeah.
Almost everybody chooses number 4, except for narcissist or self-absorbed, people that think very highly of themselves.
Yeah.
That gives us a creative liberty to tell them the truth and shoot them straight. So we don't even have to even ask the question.
It's all part of our process.
Part of the process, right? Yeah. So
go ahead. I had a question because it would seem, and this is intriguing to talk to you guys who deal with people who have come to you to say, I need an executive coach. There's a level of humility that is implied in approaching Velocity Advisors to say, you guys are going to help me because I'm not the best leader I can be, and in whatever form or fashion that may be. And I'm characterizing it one way, but let me just, if I can just add this question: is it fair to say that sometimes, or maybe just all the time, that some of the leaders who need leadership coaching or leadership guidance the most are the ones who don't get it because their arrogance leads them to believe that they have it all figured out? Is that a true
it's pretty
statement?
rare, to be honest with you. At
Yeah.
least, I mean, you've done this longer than I have,
Sure,
but
that's fair.
I'd say for the most part, I mean, there's different reasons why coaches are signed.
Yeah.
It's part of the program. It's just, here's a benefit, right? Like you're a leader. You're making multi-million-dollar decisions.
Yeah.
We want to make sure you get that right? You can't afford to get this wrong, and to have somebody bounce on what you do and how you do it and how you say it can have a multi-million-dollar impact.
Yeah.
It's worth the small investment.
Sure.
And sometimes leaders just need somebody to vent, share, vomit issues and ideas on that they can't go to their peers, they can't go to their boss, they can't go to their employees, and their spouses are tired of hearing about it as well, and say, hey, what do you think? Sometimes we're assigned as this person needs a little bit of help, but not that often, to be honest with you. It's probably maybe, I don't know, 10% of the time where somebody's not that often. And so I think maybe all but one time everybody's leaned into, this is a learning opportunity to grow as a human being and be a better leader and a better human. And when people have that approach, it's fun and it's easy and can be absolutely life-changing for individuals, not just in the business world, but at home too, because usually there's some crossover there also. Yeah.
You were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that most leaders today, and this is, we talked about differences from 20 years ago to today. I think maybe 20 years ago, coaching was punitive. Oh, Jonathan, you did something wrong. We're going to get you a coach and help you get right. Today, they're like, all right, Tom Brady has a coach, and other athletes always have a coach, and they're even the best in the world, the GOATs. That we're going to use this to get from good to great. And what I find, the higher up in the organization, not only do they have major blind spots, but they lack a sparring partner. They lack a thought partner. So
is it a truth teller? Is that?
It's not even just a truth teller. It's a lot of our clients will call us at 6 a.m. I had a call this morning at 6:15, and I'm an early riser, so it's not like the guy got me out of bed. And he wanted to bounce an idea off of me that he had to, kind of vet out today with his team. So we were there. We were shooting the shit at 6:15 in the morning to help him kind of get his messaging right, help him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just truth telling; it was thought partner. It was somebody that was qualified and vested in his success to sit there and work with them through some critical thinking. And he was 99% of the way there. I think it was just a little bit of a tweak to help him get.
Sometimes the validation is key too, right? Sometimes
that's right.
I mean, I work with a lot of really good leaders, and they're don't need a lot of, hey, you need to lean in more or lean back less, but it's validation to give them that little extra confidence for them to go do what they need to do. So, there's some people who are actually on point, but don't know they're on point. Especially may have like a mid-level manager that doesn't know they're on point yet because they just haven't been doing it long enough that we can add that. Like, yeah, you're on point, you're good. Exhale, go execute, and know that they're on the right path.
You use the word grace, or and you said show a little grace or use a little grace. That struck me because I don't know that that's something. I'm married to a Southern gal, so she uses that all the time.
Yeah, you're better half, by the way.
You know well enough. Yeah. And I don't know that, and that's an interesting piece because it struck me because I think that is that something, and I don't think and my question is that a critical piece that leaders can instill in their people or can demonstrate through example? Or am I overemphasizing how important in today's world where you can be canceled as a leader or canceled as an employee or raked across the coals as an employee because everybody gets, it's almost like it's just given. Like, well, they said something wrong or they did something wrong or we dug up something that they said when they were 15 on Twitter and now we have to go after them because that's the way the world. And I find that showing grace is, I don't mean to overemphasize the importance of it, but it is one of the great solutions that's lacking from society. Is that something that leaders can embrace or that leaders can demonstrate and sort of take their organization a little bit different direction than the cancel culture or than what the propensity to pounce on somebody for a wrongdoing is?
I'd say not only do they have to embrace that, but also to demonstrate that and say this is part of our culture as well. Because now, oddly enough, now you have employees who've been in an organization for a year who are sending emails to HR about something that bothers them or that is emotional to them with a threat of hitting a button, and that's not appropriate either.
Yeah.
that's that whole leadership component, which is like, hey, let's come back.
Hitting a button meaning going public with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something. What's our mission?
Yeah.
How do we extend grace to each other? Like, how do we support each other in this process?
Yeah.
And there's Stephen Covey's like, seek first to understand.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do we slow down our emotions and bring our emotions down a little bit? Be like, how do we seek first to understand where somebody's at? And so another way to say this, whether it's grace, seeking first to understand, is what is the intent? So if we slow down and say, what is Dave's intent? What is Jonathan's intent on what they're trying to do? I know their intent. I know where their heart is, what they're trying to do. And that's enough. The words we may use may not be perfect.
Yeah.
The tone we may use or my facial expressions, because I'm terrible with my facial expressions, may not be perfect. But I know the intent is mission focused to get things right. Yeah. That's enough. And now let's focus on where we're going, not always on the delivery. Now, we need to get delivery right more often than not. So I think incorporating that into the organizational culture is important. That's where we need to work with the younger people in our organization. Say, hey, I know this is how you're feeling, and I'm not discounting your feelings, but let's focus on the mission, and together we're going to achieve something great. Let's go. Like, let's rock and roll. And you're good. You're fine, but like, let's focus on this. And if they refuse to do that, that's when you have to make some decisions to say, like, but that's not our mission. If that's your mission, you need to go do that someplace else. Yeah. Our mission here is to do consulting services, to sell software, sell cars, sell widgets. That's what we're doing.
Fair to say that to that very question, then, the challenge for leaders is not invalidating your feelings, but one of our core values or one of our core behaviors at Greencastle is assuming positive intent. Yep. Meaning people are people are gonna fuck up. That's it.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Right. You are a human being, and we recognize that if you are not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing the envelope enough.
That's right.
If everything is going totally smooth, you're probably not pushing the envelope or hitting the throttle just enough to be innovative. To be innovative means to experiment. To experiment means to make mistakes, right? Which means that we have to show each other a little grace. But we assume positive intent, and it sounds like that's sort of what you're saying. Is that, hey, the first thing you said is what was the intent, and if we assume positive intent, doesn't invalidate your feelings of indignation or disrespect, but we can work through it if we assume positive intent, and we can all kind of get back aligned to the mission. Is that
100%?
Is that fair?
Yeah. And that goes back to values too, right? If your values the core values have been aligned and explained, and then you're focused on the mission, that other stuff we can work through.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I love assume positive intent. We one of my favorite 3 words, phrases that people use. So I actually, on the topic of grace, I think one of the things that leaders struggle with is giving themselves grace.
Mm. Yeah. And what do you mean by that?
I think knowing that you're going to screw up, knowing that you're going to make some bad decisions, know you're going to make catastrophic decisions or even minor decisions. Some people are able to move on from that fairly quickly. Yeah. Going back to football again, you throw an interception, that sucked. Sit on the bench, next play, you clear your head and you're back in the game. They gave themselves grace. Others, you watch in sports, people dwell on their mistakes. Same is true in leadership. Yeah. I made a mistake and they dwell on it and it's catastrophic and it impacts their decision making and everything else. So I think one of the key leadership traits is the ability to give yourself grace and move on, right?
Yep.
Let alone assuming positive intent, knowing that sometimes there isn't positive intent. Yeah. So I'm going to assume positive intent always until you prove that you're not worthy of that because you weren't, there wasn't positive intent. Now I'm going to be a little bit more guarded, or I'll have a different sort of conversation with you, or maybe we're out of alignment and one of us needs to make a hard decision, know. Yeah.
Is that ability to move on from that? Is that ability to reconcile whether you are a football player and you did it in front of the fans in the stadium and social media and everything else, or a CEO and you did it in front of all of your employees? Is that your ability, the ability to move on? Is that your ability to reconcile, or to to own it in front of a public audience? Is that one of those barriers?
Yeah, I think
no?
so. I've worked with a lot of leaders that have the inability to apologize.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they
Humility.
they
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's humility for sure, or lack of humility for sure. But sometimes
But even
it's
just
just
the awareness of like
it's a lack of awareness.
Yes.
Yeah, they just don't apologize.
Yeah.
And I was working with a female leader that she saw that as a sign of weakness, and we talked about
sign of
no,
strength.
it's a sign of strength.
That's right.
And she changed that paradigm in her mind, and really she started to ascend in the organization.
Yeah.
Wow.
People started seeing her in a different light, but she culturally thought that was not acceptable. That was damaging.
Yeah.
Acknowledging her flaws, acknowledging when she made major mistakes or minor mistakes. So, I think these things are important. You mentioned values earlier, and you talked about here
behaviors
the behaviors, essential behaviors is what we call them, is assume positive intent. I think values are really, really critical, and I find a lot of organizations they have them in their employee handbook and they have them on the wall or the website or whatever, but I believe your values should be your decision-making factors.
Yeah.
It's a binary yes or no.
That's right.
If integrity is a value, which I'm not a fan of that as being a value,
Yeah.
but if it is,
that's sort of a given, right?
it is. But integrity to some people means accuracy, and others means honesty. It's
But I'm saying, like to say, like honesty, or we won't rob the customer. You're sort of like,
Can I bring this
"Isn't
back
that-"
full circle?
Yeah.
My grandfather, who we talked about before, he was sitting down with my stepdad, who I love dearly, who's an alpha, and my grandfather wanted to make sure he was the alpha in the room always. He's like, Steve, you know what the most important value is? And he's like, I don't know. Honestly, he's like, no, it's integrity. And he like hammered integrity. And I heard somebody describe integrity as doing what's right when nobody's looking.
Sure.
Right? Like is a way to describe it. So I would say, yeah. So integrity is super important because especially now we're working at home. Do you trust that when Joe's working at home that I'm spending 8 to 10 to 12 hours getting it right to make sure we're going to deliver a program? But
it's almost an implied thing, right? And we can go down that rabbit hole a lot, but like it's almost integrity and honesty are almost implied things. Like I didn't hire you to hope that you're going to do it. Assume positive intent is not something that is innate, right? That's something that I want to hold you accountable to. And to your point, when I make a decision, to your point, like I agree with you. I think core values are the sanity check for every decision you make. So every decision we make, especially, and I'm not talking what color to paint the walls, but when we're going to make a very large executive decision, if in your mind, if it even scrapes along the gray area of one of your core values, and core values, you shouldn't have 70 of them, right? Because you're never gonna bounce all of your ideas off of your core values. So they say, whoever they are, they should be a finite number.
Agreed.
But every one of your the standard by which you hold your people and the decisions that you make, you should be able to bounce it off of bang, bang, bang off of your core values and go, yep, it's 100% in line with
That's
that.
right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And green light.
Yeah. And green light without any hesitation.
Let me
No
bring
hesitation.
Honesty and
full
integrity
circle.
is like,
Let me
no,
bring this
dude, that's
full
not,
circle.
like that's implied.
Let me bring this full circle. The concept of integrity, of doing what's right in an organization, is a selfless concept, right? I'm going to do what's right because it helps the organization and it helps our mission and values. If I'm not doing what's right, if I only work for 5 hours a day and kind of say when I'm doing things, that is a selfish perspective to do what's right and get paid. So which one of the things I love about our program and that I've started to incorporate, being part of Velocity, is all of our content, and it's kind of a plug, but not really. It's about whether it's sales, service, leadership, culture. It's about serving others. It's about getting out of yourself, having self-awareness, understanding how Jonathan communicates, what your needs are, how do I communicate with you, and giving, which really is about integrity. That's what leadership is all about, full circle, not what does Joe get out of this?
Yeah.
Because when we focus on ourselves, now I'm walking this way on the mountain and you're walking that way on the mountain versus we're all walking together. And that's what we need to identify in the interview process is, are you willing to join us? This is where we're going. Now, if you don't know where you're going as a leader, you're going to end up all over the place.
Yeah.
You need to
On
know
a
where you're
different
going,
mountain.
right? Yeah. You need to know where you're going and we're all walking together. Are you going to join us? Because this is where we're going. And if you're not, it's the wrong place for you. And that's, to me, what integrity is about,
Yep.
is walking together.
All right, we're getting close to
All right.
wrapping up, but I
Sorry
want
for doing
to.
this.
I know I
thought
want
maybe should.
I want to ask you, like, because we've talked about leadership, but you guys you're more than one-trick ponies. You guys you're deep, thoughtful human beings. Here you go. How about this? What's one thing about you that I wouldn't learn from your resume? Go. All right, I'll give you a second. Now you've had a second to think about it. We'll go.
I collect sports memorabilia,
Go on.
and I'll meet strangers in a parking lot and buy it in the back of their trunk. It's creepy, but it's
that
guilty.
sounds like some Buffalo Bill kind of stuff.
It is. So I
So what?
Sometimes there's a cast.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
So, like,
he does it.
what's so that's okay. So let's dig into that just for a second.
Yeah, so
what's some
I'll-
sports memorabilia? Like, what's your most prized possession? I don't mean what's the most valuable. That's a different question.
That is a
What's
different-
your most prized
my
possession?
most prized possession is a John Elway autographed helmet because I'm a Denver Broncos fan. But I just bought off of What's Up or whatever. I don't even know what it. What's Up? Is that
What's
right?
that?
WhatsApp?
No, not WhatsApp.
Literally have no idea what you're talking about.
OfferUp. So it's this
Okay.
app.
Yeah.
I bought a basketball for $70. It's autographed by the Kentucky Wildcats, one of their national championship team. They had 3, like,
Under Calipari?
under Calipari, and it had Devin Booker, and
Oh,
it
man.
had Anthony Towns.
I'm a University of
Karl
Memphis
Anthony
basketball
Towns,
guy,
yeah.
so I'm a little bit of a.
Yeah, you're a Calipari guy. So I
I'm-
bought this for $70.
I'm
It's probably
impartial
worth-
to Calipari is what the answer is. Well, as long as I'm on this podcast.
Well, I can resell it to you if this is like an open market.
I don't want it.
You're anti-Calipari.
I'm a University of Memphis Calipari.
Yeah, because you
Memphis
guys
guy.
banned for 2
Yeah,
years
yeah,
and
yeah.
all that.
Didn't you win a championship, though?
Well, it was taken away.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Technically,
Yeah,
can't
so-
take it away.
Anyhow,
Yeah. Anywho,
yeah, I buy things for like nothing and then try to have fun with it. And
so that's
so I don't sell it. My wife's like, when are you going to sell all this shit? And I've got a whole like basement full of really cool things like this Kentucky basketball that someday my great grandchildren will sell for $5 that I bought for $70 and it's worth
Yeah, exactly.
whatever.
So that is what's most valuable to you, and I'm not going to give away your address or anything, but like, what is the most valuable? If you can say, I don't want to talk about.
Oh, jeez.
What's the most like monetary valuable thing you have?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some things that are worth a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, like
What makes
Joe
something worth a lot?
Joe DiMaggio
Ooh.
and Ted Williams autographed cool things
Yeah.
and
Do you buy stuff today that not just because you hope it's going to make money, but do you buy stuff today, and then and the thought is like, well,
have you seen American Pickers?
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Like I
Yeah,
go,
yeah, all right.
I try to find bargains.
Yeah.
Like this silly basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, this basketball I thought I could sell for like $300 or $400, which I don't sell stuff. I just collect it, according to my wife. And actually, it's worth like $1,500. I bought for $70. Like that. Like that's a home run for me. Have I totally geeked out?
No, I'm willing to
exciting,
sign a
right?
football or something for you, like before you leave here.
I
It
could
was
sell
worth
that for
$4,
$5 or
and now
$6.
it's worth $1.50.
Yeah, that actually may
literally-
devalue the football.
Whatever you paid in Target for the football is exactly what it would be worth. Maybe even a little bit
No,
less.
you actually can't even return it.
Yeah, you
Right?
can't return.
You
Now
just
it's been
can't
signed.
return
You
for
can't.
less.
You'd have to spin the
You did
the
Kilimanjaro. You've got like that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you're about to dwarf me on something really cool.
Yeah, what's something about on your resume, and not climbing Mount Kilimanjaro because it's not Everest. So let's not. I'm not looking for JV level.
Well, let me ask you, did you wrestle?
Can you see it?
I saw the cauliflower ear.
Why did you bring that up? That
Because
used to
I
be
know.
cool. That was cool when I was 18.
It's cool to me,
And it's
because
not
I
cool
wrestled
anymore.
in high school. I went to states in high school wrestling.
Where? In what state?
In Florida, so don't give me a hard time if you went in Pennsylvania. I know. But for me at the time, it was a big deal. I started as a freshman in high school. That was my first introduction to discipline, hard work, pain, frustration,
Yeah.
and then reaching something that I don't think anybody expected me to do as like a 17, 18-year-old was big for me. And so going to Kilimanjaro this year was some like, man, I haven't put myself kind of in the army, but I didn't do what you did through some intentional
Yeah.
pain to
How old are
achieve
you?
something. 49.
At 49, you climbed Kilimanjaro, not because you had to, because there was something up there that like somebody left and was like, hey, Joe, can you go to the top of Kilimanjaro and get this for me? I left it up there.
Oh, it was
But because you wanted to.
100%. So it's with the Chris Long Foundation. We're raising money for clean water. I mean, when you go to Tanzania, we talk about how we create problems that don't exist in this country. We create problems that don't exist.
Yeah.
The 25th poorest country in the world, maybe 50 to 60, 70% of the people over there don't have access to clean water, where they're
Tanzania.
women and children walking 5, 6, 10 miles every day to get clean water. So,
Can I give a different answer?
No, we are not editing out your answer.
We'll talk about base cars later.
Yeah, don't
Baseball
say
cars
that you
later.
volunteer at an orphanage like every Sunday, because we're not
Listen,
going that direction.
Dave does. He's a good man for sure.
Hold on, before you finish.
Yeah.
My answer was going to be I have won karaoke contest singing Rapper's Delight. Not the long version, I might add.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna close with that.
All 14 minutes and
I
40
do Billy
seconds.
Joel. Billy Joel is the only one I can sing.
No, you don't get to. You don't get to like try and play the trump card here.
Yeah, don't up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
don't. You're not going to one up like.
No, I can't.
You
Trust
already
me.
start-
You
so,
haven't heard me sing it.
Dave, I'm with you. Like I was going to give a much more shallow answer, but let's wrap up with. Go on with your. When you finished at
Let's
bragging
make this
camp.
all about Joe.
When you finished at bragging camp and then you
Hey, you
climbed
picked on me
Kilimanjaro.
early. I gotta bring
Yeah.
back some redemption.
Oh yeah.
No, but
That's a
you
big
were, in
one.
all seriousness, you were like Tanzania, 25th
The
poorest
people
country.
were amazing. They really. You see kids kicking a tennis, like 6 kids kicking a tennis ball, and can be happier. And they're really warm. So to combine giving and doing something that for was physically challenging was needed, and so continuing that I think is really important. I think we
Not
create
ripping
problems
off
over here.
people in a parking lot.
Yes.
It's,
They're not ripping off. They're selling for the price they want to sell for. You're
I
buying it
give
for
you
the price
$5 for that basketball.
yeah.
Does it say Jonathan Kleck on there? That I'm
Derek
I'll give
Rose.
you-
Nobody's
I'll give
ever
you
heard of
3.
that guy.
Yeah. I really do want to give another answer.
I don't know why you
Give it.
suddenly
Go
when
for
I
it.
did you sounded like an 80-year-old woman who's been smoking for 60 years.
Even
I wouldn't give you $10 for that.
I thought like one
even
of
the
the Simpsons twin
karaoke
sisters.
kind of dwarfed my answer. That was
All right, go ahead. We'll edit your piece out.
No, I don't. You don't
Dave,
have to edit.
what's something in your resume that we wouldn't learn from your? Or what's something about you that we wouldn't learn from your resume?
I ran a 5K this weekend and
He's
won
done
my age
marathons.
group.
Marathon guy.
You
I
are
did.
you are a
I'm
multi-marathoner, right?
I'm and I ran a 5K.
More importantly,
And, I
his
walked a
wife
1
is a
mile.
hardcore marathoner.
yeah.
That's
Every
actually
state.
that's
He
actually
married
more
smart,
interesting.
just like you
is,
did.
I wasn't
my
gonna go
wife's,
there.
a badass marathon.
I think we need to have
maniac.
them on. I think we need to have your wife and her running partners
Well,
on.
her running partner is a West Point grad and is pretty badass, and her husband's a West Point grad. So
Yeah.
I know you're a Navy guy, but could be entertaining.
we have the JV on all the time.
Actually,
so.
those two would be way more interesting than the Dave and Joe combo.
I agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, this may never see the air. This may never see the air if we get a chance to interview them. So
That's true.
Next
All right.
show.
yeah. All right. Well, fellas, since it is a Tuesday morning at now 8:15.
We got to do another shot.
Just to be clear, it is a Friday afternoon and we are drinking. Hey guys, thanks very much for coming on, man.
Thank
This
you.
this has been super
Thank you, man.
insightful. The high
Love
five
it.
is coming back. We'll do the handshake on this side.
Yeah.
It's a more mature way to. It's a more way
not
to,
the CEO.
It's a more mature way to end it with. Yeah, I don't know what the high five should we. Yeah,
fist bump.
bro hug after
right.
the end of this.
Absolutely.
But, all right, fellas, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate your
Thanks for
time
having
and
us.
thanks for the insights. It's actually really really helpful. Hopefully, any of the leaders listening are taking some notes and knowing what they can do to get better. Real quick, velocityadvisors.com. Is that right?
Advisory group.
velocityadvisorygroup.com.
Yep.
Folks can find you on the interweb. Joe Witte on LinkedIn.
Easy.
Dave Fechtman on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And
You even pronounced it correctly, so
yeah,
thank you.
Fechtman, you like that?
Yes, I do.
FECHTMAN.
And but velocityadvisorgroup.com on the internet, looking for executive coaching, leadership consulting, and helping you to right the ship.
Yeah.
Fellas, thanks very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.